Hey guys, Gas Station here. The following video is a tech demo by Circleseverywhere and is targeted more to viewers interested in ROM hacking themselves. So if you're a ROM hacker, especially a new aspiring one, you should definitely take a look.
Hello everyone, this is Circles Everywhere, and today I'm going to talk to you about the future of ROM hacking. Today I'm going to show you how to use the Make Hack button. Now forget for a second everything you know about ROM hacking. This isn't going to be like other guides. We're not going to be using Nightmare, we're not going to be using Feditor, we're not going to make 100 backups, and we're not going to record the offsets of every little bit of data that we insert. All we need to do is paste in the FE8 ROM and run Make Hack. That's it. And now the hack is going to be ready in a few seconds. Now this method works thanks to the efforts of CrazyColors5 for his hard work making all of these amazing new features for Event Assembler and a bunch of tools for build files, all of which I will cover in a second. And very special thanks to Nintenlord for creating Event Assembler in the first place. Now it seems like that's now done, and as you can see we've got our hack now created, and we even have a UPS patch created as well. Now if you want to follow along at home, there is a link to the build file project folder in the in the description, and as well as CrazyColors' written guide, which is very detailed, over at Fire Emblem Universe. Again, the link is in the description. Now that I've got your attention though, let's just jump straight into how it works. Now, as you may have noticed, we're using Event Assembler for this method, and it turns out that Event Assembler is useful for a lot more than just events, in part thanks to some of these amazing features that it has. For example, include. Include lets you basically place an entire document inside another document, such that Event Assembler will treat the entire thing as one big file. The next part is incbin, which is include binary. It works like include, but instead of including an event file, you include raw data. A new feature added by CrazyColors5 is incExt, or include external, which lets you run a command line tool to get raw data based on the parameters you pass it. Now this is a little bit confusing and we'll go over it later. One of the crucial features of Event Assembler is define, which gets covered quite well in Archer's chapter construction guide. But the important thing to understand is that not only can we define pure definitions, we can also define macros, which will be very handy, although under the hood most of the time. Now, more new features, push and pop. These two are amazing, and you'll soon understand why. Push essentially saves your spot, places a bookmark sort of in the ROM at your current location, and so you can flip to, much like a book, to a different page, a different offset, insert more things, and then come back to your old location using pop. And finally, we've got labels, which essentially are a way for EA to track where each piece of data is. Now this is the reason we don't need to write down offsets all the time, because using labels, EA can do all of the hard work for us in remembering what is where. Now the two most important files in the entire project folder are the ROM build file and MAKEHACK.cmd. First, let's take a look at the ROM build file. As you can see, it's almost entirely include commands. Now, each one of these includes will expand out into an installer, most of which have their own includes, which will include all the sub-installers for the tables, for the hacks, for the graphics, for everything. So with this one document, we can assemble all of the Event Assembler files that we have in the entire project in one go. Now if we were to do that normally, to assemble it, it's pretty simple as well. Open event assembler, browse, choose the build file, browse, choose the hack, choose FE8 and assemble. But we would have to do this every single time. So what we do with MAKEHACK is to automate that process, and as well as that, we will run event assembler first with the settings we want every time. But first I added a few extra steps, such as duplicating our clean ROM and also including a UPS file which will be created at the end. Now, with these two files together, we can simply run this batch file and it will duplicate FE8 clean, rename it to FEHack, assemble the ROM build file to FEHack with the settings that we want, and then finally run the UPS file that creates a new patch from this. Now that's all well and good, but you might be asking yourself, but event assembler is for events. Even if I can assemble all the events in one go, what about all the other stuff that event assembler can't do? Well, it turns out there's not a whole lot that event assembler can't actually do. Let's start by looking into how I've replaced Nightmare. Using Nightmare to CSV, NMM to CSV, I've created a program that converts Nightmare modules into CSV files that you can open in Excel. For example, we have our character editor.csv right here. If I open that, you can see all of our characters, all of their name, description, all of that stuff right here, and I can edit it super easy. Got growths I can edit, base stats, levels, everything right here. And to make a change, all I would have to do is, for example, let's change, shall we say, Erika's base strength to 20. Enter. Save. Come back out here. Back up to here. Run C2EA. Bang, that processes it into a bunch of event files. Coming back here, we can have a look at our character editor, and now there's a character editor.event. If we open that, let's maximize that, you can see this crazy long automatically generated macro with all of this stuff, and it looks really scary, but what it actually does is basically put this table into the ROM when it's included. And we can do that for every table that we care to edit. Just edit the CSV, save it, run C2EA, and include this table installer, which has all of our CSV tables in here. So we simply include table installer in our big build file, close that, and yeah, we're ready to go. So we found that Nightmare is no longer useful because we have a much better way of both using Excel and Event Assembler to make all the changes we want, to stats, to everything, and any Nightmare module can be converted to a CSV, so that makes it so much easier to make your changes, many changes at once, and not have to worry about, opening and saving and making sure you don't have Feditor open at the same time or any of that, and pressing enter after you've made your changes. None of that matters. All you got to do, edit the CSV, save and run C2EA. Now the next part we can edit is text. Now there's a bunch of stuff in here as well, but the important thing is we come in here, we've got our text. I'll show you what each one looks like. Let's have a look at Ruby name. And there it is. You've got your text ID that you're installing to there. You've got your text, and then you've got the text codes there. Now there's a more detailed guide to this in Crazy Colors 5's text parser, where you can use his, which is included with Event Assembler, by the way. You can create your own definitions here in case you want to, and use those in your text. And once that's done, you simply run textProcess.event. Done. It will scan the entire folder and add all the valid text files into it, and you will get an install textData.event file and a textDefinitions.event file. Install textData.event looks kind of strange as well. You don't really need to understand this, but basically what it does is it will inkext, which is inkext the parse file, which is Crazy Colors text parser, passing in each individual text file and then setting the table entry of the thing. Now you'll also need to include the anti-Huffman patch, which we will get to later, but essentially all you have to do is run text process and include install textData.event, which is down here, into your ROM build file. And there you have it. That's how you install text. Next up, we will install graphics. There's a few different kinds of graphics. The one in my example, we have animations, we've got map sprites, we've got portraits, and we've got weapon icons, as well as the chapter name and our title screen. Now the graphics installer looks a bit like this. We repoint some stuff, we've installed stuff using, again, an external tool, PNG to dump, which converts a PNG directly to binary, allowing us to insert it just like GBAGE would. And let's go over, it's got an option LZ77 in case you need to insert compressed images. As for portraits, we can include portraitInstaller.txt, which I will go to now. As you can see, we've got our portraits here formatted the same as Feditor would need them. And the only real difference is that you can simply copy and paste these and replace the things, and replace the labels, replace the file names. The only part that makes it more difficult than Feditor is that you need to enter the X and Y coordinates of the mouth and eye frames, but you also only need to do this once. Unlike Feditor, if you brick your ROM, you don't need to insert all of your mugs one by one, because you're using a clean ROM every single time. It will be inserted correctly every single time, and all you need to do is set it up once and you're good forever. Now that's our portrait installer, and we have our map sprites. They work pretty simply. It's just PNG to dump LZ77 and making a couple of nightmare edits using CSV. And animations. This is one of the more advanced functions of Feditor, and what we can do now is take these animation files and create a special installer, change the entry to the slot that we're doing, and it comes out with all this really long and scary stuff. But basically, all you gotta do is drag this file onto this program and include this anim installer in your graphics installer, and you're good. Oh, and apply this anim compress patch, but that is included in our installer here, animationpatches.event, and that'll make it all work fine. What else can we do? Music. Yes, there's a lot here, but the general idea is music installer. It's very easy. We include our voice group, our custom native instrument map, which is also available for download over at Fire Emblem Universe, and set our song table with the different songs that we want. Now, how do we get these songs? Well, you start with a MIDI, like this one. You drag it onto mid to agb.exe, and it will give you a .s file, which you then drag onto s2ea.exe, and it will give you an event file. This event file looks quite different from most normal event files, but all you have to do now is add it to your music installer, and then add your music installer to your ROM build file, and it will all work. Maps. Here's an interesting one. Currently we don't have the ability to do mappy maps. We can do tiled maps though, which is better because we can do tiled changes. And we have here a nice little map courtesy of Aura Wolf in his map pack. And we have our tiled changes right here. And everything is properly set up for the tiled map inserter. This card. And it's all set up for that, and TMX2EA works pretty much just like the tiled map inserter, except all you gotta do is drag it onto there, and it will output a event file with the map's data and the map changes, and you simply change this map entry, map changes things. You can replace this with O times 4 and this one with O times 6, which are the event pointer table entries that point to the prologue map and the prologue map changes. And once that's done, you won't even have to use Nightmare to change the stuff. You get the master map installer, which is already set up. For this is when you have more than one map, it will include all of them here. And then include the master map installer in your ROM build file once again to add it to the master installer. Yes, save the changes. And there we have insertion of maps. And finally, we have insertion of engine hacks, or rather assembly hacks. This one, well, I personally am very into assembly, and I have quite a lot of assembly hacks that I install. As you can see, this one uses the master hack installer, which is this one, and you can see there's quite a lot of stuff here, but it's all in include, because most of the assembly hacks that we release these days are actually quite event assembler compatible. So this one is HP bars. As you can see, it's quite short. It includes a bunch of extra stuff and all of that, but you don't need to worry about any of that, because all you have to do is include this under some free space in your master hack installer, which is then included in your ROM build file, and bang, you've got the hack installed. Yeah, that's pretty much all the stuff I've got here, and let's just see what. Oh, right, silly me. Events. I've totally forgotten that Event Assembler was originally for events. Well, guess what? Yes, Event Assembler is still the best and probably the only way to do your events. I've got my prologue here. It's pretty standard. Yeah, there's lots of guides. I will give a quick shout out to Invader Zim's FE8 eventing wiki. That one is the best resource for FE8 eventing that I've seen, and it's still being worked on and still being improved. So I would say go check that out if you are interested in hacking FE8 but are put off by the lack of guides. Speaking of which, by the way, most of these tools are compatible with all Fire Emblems for GBA. Few of them are limited to FE8 for the moment. In the next coming months, they will probably be ported to FE7 and then possibly FE6. But even if you don't, the build file format is still a really great way to install almost everything, and you can polish off with the extras. What else? Yes, world maps, all of that events, and again I have a master installer here that includes all each individual chapters, which itself is then included in here, for one for world maps, one for chapters. And then it says a message to tell us where the current offset is, so we know that we didn't hit the end of the free space. For Fire Emblem 8, I'm using the free space from B2A610 hex, which goes all the way up to C00000 in hex, and another one for BL range. Now that one's for hacks, and a few simple definitions as well. And yeah, all of that together comes into one single script, which we run and creates this. Now, if you're feeling a bit lost or overwhelmed, that's alright, because I've glossed over quite a lot of the details in the demonstration of this new method, mostly because I just want to show off how cool this method is, how great it is for organizing your project, for just keeping everything in order. If you want to debug, it's also really, really easy. All you got to do is comment out, for example, if you think the error is one of the hacks, you can comment out the entire hacks and see if everything works. And that'll help you really narrow down where the cause of your thing is, because every time you're building from a clean ROM, it makes it really easy to narrow down where the problem is without needing like a folder with 100 backups and all of that. But of course, yeah, I've gone over everything really quickly just as a quick demonstration. If you want to learn more, there is a written guide being released, and I may go on to create more video guides for each individual task, such as the tables, how to insert music, all of that will come perhaps in the future. Again, this technique is rather new. This is, again, the future of ROM hacking, and everything is new and exciting and generally cool. So I hope to see you there.